No interviews? It may be time to stop applying for jobs. We've all had a project like this. It starts strong. The idea is good. The plan makes sense. For a little while, everything moves. Then it slows down. Then it stops. It does not even crash and burn. At least a crash has drama. There are lessons. People gather afterward and explain what went wrong. This just fades. A job search can do exactly the same thing. You begin with hope. You update the resume. You fix LinkedIn. You write a cover letter that sounds reasonably human and does not appear to have been assembled by a committee of nervous vice presidents. You apply for jobs that seem to require exactly what you know how to do. At first, a few automated acknowledgments arrive. Then come the polite rejections explaining that the company has decided to move forward with candidates whose backgrounds more closely match its needs. Nobody ever explains what that means, naturally. Then even the rejections stop. Nothing. No calls. No interviews. No recruiter suddenly announcing that your background is exactly what the client is looking for. Silence. And silence may be worse than rejection. At least rejection confirms that somebody, or perhaps some machine with excellent manners, noticed you existed. At this point, most job seekers reach the same conclusion. They decide they are not doing enough. So they return to the computer and send out another 40 or 50 applications. I am here to suggest that this may be exactly the wrong thing to do. It feels productive. There are fresh listings, fresh possibilities, and new rows for the spreadsheet. Surely one of them will work. Maybe. But if the first 60 applications produced 1 week screening call and nothing else, applications 61 through 120 are unlikely to produce a parade. There comes a point when persistence stops being persistence and becomes repetition with excellent branding. Before you send another application, stop and count. Look at what has already happened. How many jobs have you applied for? How many employers responded? How many responses led to a real conversation? How many became actual interviews? Do not count the automated email saying your application has been received. That merely proves the software is awake. Suppose you have applied for 60 jobs and received 1 screening call. That is not a small sample. It is enough evidence to tell you that something is not working. The problem is probably not your stamina. You do not need another motivational podcast. You do not need a new productivity app. You do not need to wake up at 5 in the morning and visualize employment. Something earlier in the process is broken. Sending another 60 applications without changing anything is a little more than a habit involving a keyboard. Stopping is not giving up. If you kept pouring water into a bucket and the bucket remained empty, eventually you would stop admiring your work ethic and look for the hole. So where is the hole? There are 4 places to look. The jobs you are targeting, the way you present yourself, the way you are reaching employers, and the condition of the market itself. You may be applying for the wrong jobs. A resume can be perfectly respectable and still fail because it is aimed at the wrong target. This often happens after the silence sets in. A marketing director begins by applying for marketing director positions. Then the search expands to marketing manager jobs, communications positions, sales roles, business development jobs, nonprofit work, and anything containing the word strategy. It feels flexible. To an employer, it may look as though you are wandering through the job market asking whether anyone needs anything done. Pull up the last 20 jobs you applied for and look at them side by side. Are they really versions of the same job? Or are they a collection of positions that seem vaguely related because they all involve meetings and Microsoft Office? A broad search can become a blurry search very quickly. Hiring managers can usually tell the difference between someone who wants this particular job and someone who wants a job and has paused briefly at theirs. The answer may be a smaller target. Choose the 3 or 4 roles that most closely match what you have actually done. Look for the problems those employers are trying to solve. Then make every application prove the connection. The employer should be able to see quickly why your experience belongs in that particular job. If the connection requires a 3-paragraph explanation, it probably is not obvious enough. Your resume may not be making the case once you have narrowed the target. Look at the document you are sending. You have probably read your resume too many times. Eventually, the words disappear. Writers know this. After the 40th reading, you stop seeing what is on the page and begin seeing what you remember meaning to put there. Resumes work the same way. You know what managed cross-functional initiatives means because you lived through the entire miserable experience. The employer sees only this, managed cross-functional initiatives. That could mean almost anything. Perhaps you led 6 departments through a difficult product launch and brought it in 2 months early. Perhaps you scheduled meetings and ordered sandwiches. The phrase does not tell us. Give the resume to someone who understands the field and is willing to be honest. Do not ask, does this look good? People will say yes because they are kind and want the conversation to end. Ask instead, would you interview this person for this specific job? Then stop talking. The answer may be uncomfortable. Perhaps the resume buries your strongest accomplishment. Perhaps it lists duties instead of results. Perhaps it makes a senior executive look like a competent assistant manager. Perhaps your most impressive work is described in language so bland that it could have been copied from the employee handbook. These are fixable problems. Sending the same document to another 40 employers is not a fix. The next question is how you are reaching employers. The application may be the weakest part of the search. Job seekers like applications because applications can be counted. You can send 5 before lunch. You can record them. You can sort them by company and date. You can build a spreadsheet so elaborate that it begins to resemble a federal agency. Applications create visible activity. Human conversations are less tidy. They take time. They may lead nowhere. They may reveal that the company is badly run, the hiring manager has no idea what the job involves, or the position itself is a disaster with dental insurance. They are still more useful. The online application is often the weakest point of contact in the entire hiring process. It is filtered, ranked, sorted, and skimmed. It may be rejected before anyone who understands your background ever sees it. But apply now is not the same thing as conducting a job search. Find people who understand the work you want to do. Former colleagues, clients, vendors, industry contacts, people inside the departments that hire people like you. Do not send one of those dreadful LinkedIn messages explaining that you were inspired by their journey. You were not inspired by their journey. You found them because they work at a company that interests you. They know this. You know this. Let us preserve a little dignity. Ask a real question. What is changing in the field? What does the company actually value? What does the job description leave out? What kind of person succeeds there? You may get a referral. You may instead learn that the opening is already spoken for, the department is a mess, or the job description bears only a passing relationship to the actual job. That information can save you weeks. Warnings are underrated. A useful conversation may also help you understand how employers describe the work, what qualifications they actually care about, and whether your resume is speaking the same language they are. That is far more valuable than sending applications into the fog and hoping something answers. There is one more possibility. Sometimes the market is simply bad. An industry may be shrinking. Employers may have frozen hiring without removing the listings. Companies may be combining 3 jobs into one and then looking for a 31-year-old with 18 years of experience who can start Monday. Some advertised jobs may not be active at all. No amount of positive thinking changes arithmetic. A weak resume and a weak market require different responses. If qualified people with backgrounds similar to yours are getting hired, then your target, resume, or search method may need work. If almost nobody is being hired, rewriting your summary section for the 19th time will not rescue the industry. You may need to consider adjacent work, contract assignments, consulting, a different industry, a wider geography, or another way to demonstrate your value. That is not surrender. It is updating the map. A stalled job search creates panic. Panic creates activity. Activity creates the comforting impression that something is happening. Often, what is happening is simply more of the same failed activity, performed faster. So stop for a few days. Look at the numbers. Review the last 20 jobs you pursued and decide whether they belong in the same search. Narrow the target. Ask someone knowledgeable whether your resume makes a convincing case for one specific role. Talk to people who understand the work. Find out whether the jobs you are pursuing are actually being filled, and whether they are being filled by people with backgrounds like yours. Then restart. Apply to fewer jobs, perhaps, but make each application more deliberate. Spend less time feeding application systems and more time learning what is happening inside the companies and industries you are targeting. Watch for evidence of life. Are more people responding? Are conversations becoming interviews? Are employers beginning to understand where you fit? If the results improve, keep going. If they do not, stop again and adjust. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do in a job search is refusing to send another application until you understand why the last 60 went nowhere. There is no prize for becoming the fastest applicant in the dead zone. This is one of the central ideas in my upcoming book, Get Hired in a Broken Job Market. Effort matters. Persistence matters. But only when the effort is attached to a strategy that is producing some evidence of life. When the phone has stopped ringing, it may be time to stop applying long enough to find out what has gone wrong. And even if your job search has temporarily stalled, remember this: the job market may be broken, but you are not.